And we are live, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. Myself, host as always at McKinnell, man, joined by my co-host, Coach Leroy Frederick, man, associate assistant head coach over at Alcorn State, man. Coach, we got a lot to talk about today, man. But first, how we feeling, man? See y'all doing y'all went kind of viral, man, for signing some players. Everyone said they saw you guys out there on the recruiting trail balling, man. So how we feeling?
Feeling good. Could be in a worse space than we are today. But hey, heading into the new year, riding high, baby. Feeling good. Feeling good.
You enjoy your holidays, man?
I
Get
did.
a
How
little
about
time
yourself,
off?
brother? Oh yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. Weather was a little bit hit and miss down here,
Yeah.
but other than that, everything was cool.
Man,
How
I
about
feel
yours?
you on that. Man, it stormed over Mobile last night, man. We had like tornado warnings. I mean, man, it poured. Power was in and out yesterday, man. So it stormed over Mobile yesterday, man. But we here. Um, Coach, man, me and you were going to take a little bit of time off. I don't even think we were planning on doing a live show this week. And all hell broke loose on the coaching circuit. We had Norfolk State announce Michael Vick as the head coach. Me and you kind of talked about this. That we were hearing it. I think we both the position of it's so out there that until it's announced, I'm not believing it. But it's officially here. They've had the press conference, all that, and then earlier this week, man, shout out to our guy Jeff Lightsey and Scotty, man. Delaware State makes another hire, a splash hire with Deshawn Jackson. Coach, we're going to have an Eagle versus Eagle Delaware State Norfolk State matchup, and I think our guy Josh Sims on HBCU United said it best. I don't know if there's been more hype for that matchup in the history of those two programs. So, Coach, and then you had Tremaine Jackson announced as the head coach at PV. Me and you kind of talked about this. We saw that coming. That was kind of the rumors here. You still have Alabama A&M dragging their feet. Me and you both think that it should have been Sam Shade, but they're looking to make a celebrity hire. We won't break any news here, but announcement pending from what I was told. And then, of course, we got Valley, who I don't think anybody, even at Valley, knows the direction that they're going to go with head coach. So, Coach, all that, man, your takeaways, your initial reaction when you heard the news, specifically of Michael Vick to Norfolk, Deshawn Jackson to Delaware State.
I just want to give breaking news right here that I am the celebrity hire for A&M. Uh, Press conference coming soon. But nah, the whole Vic thing, man, I was very surprised by it because he has that spot on the NFL show, and outside of that, he's still doing a lot of things. So I never once heard him mention wanting to be in the game as a coach. So uh, when it was finally said, well, when the whispers were coming about, didn't believe it. You call, and then boom, okay, I guess it's real. It's here. I'm excited for him, man. I think that's a big time hire for them. He's from the state. You know, I I don't see anything wrong with it. I like it. I like it.
Now, I'm with you here. Okay, so out of the two, and I want to say this, man, I hate when, because you know how I feel on this show, man. I want to have like honest conversations about these hires. I hate when people act dense and they act stupid and they're like, well, define a celebrity hire. There's been former NFL players that coached in HBCU football, FCS
Michael Vick's a
football.
celebrity.
Yes, Michael Vick is a celebrity hire. I don't care how you want to define it. Deshaun Jackson is a borderline celebrity hire. Now, the way I would define it,
Depending on where
coach,
you
is
go. Yeah,
yeah, depending on where you go, because he's definitely a celebrity up in that region, right? That
yeah,
Philadelphia region. I think you can maybe even extend that to California a bit
yeah.
with his history there. Was it Long Beach, Poly, or something like that? I'll say this: I think celebrity hires you classify that as coaches who would anybody have hired Michael Vick if you take his NFL playing career away? No. No one would have hired him. He had no other coaching experience. So to me, that's a celebrity hire. Eddie George was a celebrity hire. Deion Sanders was a celebrity hire. Some of the NFL names that people are putting on social media saying, well, since they played in the NFL, is it a celebrity hire? It was like, well, was that person a celebrity?
No,
No. Just because a guy played in the NFL doesn't make it a celebrity hire. And there's been PWIs that have done that, right? Trent Dilfer at UAB. If he didn't have an NFL career, he would have never got that job, and that fell flat on its face. What was it? Ed McCaffrey at Northern Colorado as well?
yeah,
Fell right
that's
on
his
his
area.
face.
Yeah.
doing that. He really didn't have much coaching experience. If he wasn't an NFL player, he wouldn't have gotten that job, and that's why he doesn't have that job anymore. So I hate that people are like, well, why do you? I just hate that distinction that people try to act dumb about. But for me, Coach, I think this makes complete sense, right? We're going to get to one where I was a little bit torn when it was the first announced, but Michael Vick ties to the area, Coach. He's already been recruiting, landed 2 commitments, a kid out of Frostburg State, and then another transfer. Both the kid at Frostburg State has some really good film, interior defensive lineman, if I'm not mistaken. So, Coach, he's recruiting the areas that he needs to get. Now, we haven't heard staff really. That's probably the next step for you, Coach. You've been you helped said with the transition this past year, right? And you guys didn't have a lot of staff turnover, but you've been on staffs that have come in. Give the people the rundown, because we had this conversation on HBCU Nightly's on HBCU Nightly what the first 30, 60, 90 days needs to look like for you being on staffs, being experienced in the coaching profession. What's on the checklist for the first 30 days compared to 60, 90 days?
And I want to touch on, before we get to that, the celebrity part of it, what you were talking about. Uh, if Michael Vick shows up at the mall, there's going to be a flock around him. Everybody knows who he is. I show up at the mall, no flock. They don't know who I am. So that, to me, is what a celebrity hire is. He can't go anywhere without being uh, flocked for a picture, an autograph. That's a celebrity hire. And we all know that, just making sure. And that's why I said, depending on where you are with Deshawn Jackson, he falls into that category. But, for both of those guys, for Vic coming in, unless he had this all planned out to where he's talked to 10 guys, he's got to get his coordinators together, B, figure out how he's going to put the rest of the staff together. Is he going to let the coordinators do the hiring, or is he going to do the hiring and kind of fill out his tree that way? All the while still trying to recruit kids that are on campus that haven't hit the portal. Now, once those guys are in-house, now you've got to start building, which he's already started with the kid from UTSA and, like you said, Frostburg State. Uh, he's got to get that going. And that's got to happen quick, because the next signing day in February is right around the corner. Most people don't go back to school until maybe the 13th, maybe that second, into that third week in January, which leaves you 2 weeks before, 2.5 weeks before that February signing date. And he's got to have something together in order to try to put his system, which now this is where we are now. What are we going to be like on offense? What are we going to be like on defense? What are we going to be like on special teams? And all make it make sense. So when he's recruiting, Zach, hey, Zach from Mobile, come on down. This is what we're doing offensively. Now he has a plan to show the recruits. And now, once he gets that in place, now he's got to start setting his spring dates. Okay, winter conditioning. When are we going to go spring football? And I don't know much about Virginia weather. You could tell me more about that. I know it's cold. I don't know how much snow they actually get. Uh, Planning those days to actually get out on the field. You get so many practices in the spring, getting that set. And then all the while still recruiting and still setting up for spring recruiting. So, he's got a lot on his plate here in the next couple of weeks to even look like a functional staff, let alone a first year, first chance, first opportunity staff. And, I told you before, I'm cool with the hire because it's a first year guy. Whether you want to believe it or not, somebody took a chance and gave Bill Belichick his first job. Somebody took the chance and gave Eddie Robinson, God rest his soul, his first job. So first year guys, I'm all about. I think the problem is, unless he shows the history, I don't think he's coached anywhere. You know what I mean? Unlike, say, Trent Dilfer, who coached at a high school, uh, Coach Prime, who coached at a high school. So they had some type of structure of what the practices look like, how it goes, that kind of thing. Because you remember the story when Steve Spurrier took over for Washington, coming from the college game, first year NFL head coach, he had no clue of how the roster worked. So those are all things that first year guys have to learn. And if you've never been in that building, in that office, it can be tough. So it'll be interesting to see who he puts around him to help guide him through those things.
I think the other thing is too, and I understand the hype around it, right? I still
Hmm.
think these two programs are in a position where it's not gonna be a year one, let's go win a championship thing, like some people may be hyping it up as. And I do wanna say, like, I do think the fan base has to have some patience because I'm just gonna say this, like, I do think he's gonna recruit really, really well. He's gonna find himself a good staff, but bro, like, if you think Trey Oliver and Chinnis Berry and these guys are just gonna roll over in the MEAC, I just I think there's a year, like a year growth because I think where Norfolk is right now as a roster, you got to take some steps forward to really compete. And also, too, quarterback is like the number one thing you have to get right because I look at some of these coaching hires over the past few years, coach. The correlation between coaches who have been fired after 2-3 years because they couldn't find a quarterback and coaches that have made it, quarterback is like the data point that is common among all of those. If you cannot find an elite quarterback, bro, your tenure in college football is limited. And so I think for me, Vic has to find somebody that that can stabilize that quarterback position. Because let's just be honest, coach, Dawson Odom's had talent at other positions, right? They had a first team all conference corner, one of the best corners in the MEAC, freshman All American linebackers. Coach, you coach with the guy who was on the Norfolk staff. He had multiple freshman All American offensive linemen. They had talent. It was that quarterback spot really brought that team back to, the level that we did see. Coach, let me ask you this, and then we're going to move on to the next hire. Do you think the staff should be balanced between guys with NFL experience in college, or do you think he should go college heavy to help him kind of close that gap in terms of understanding the college game where it is now?
I think he's got to have a base of guys that understand the game of where it is now, uh, college wise. And we all know that it's not the same when he was in college. The game has changed. So I think he's got to go out and he's got to find guys that understand this day and age of college football. Because if you go get the pro guy, um, he's going to be good with X and O's. He may even be good with the initial recruiting, but you and I know what the recruiting is now.
Yeah.
So, are those guys going to be willing to burn that midnight oil, fight those fights, uh, throw those dollars, that kind of thing, in the recruiting world. Not saying that he needs to go get a bunch of first year guys or anything like that, but I
Yeah.
think he needs to go get some college guys to kind of help him transition and balance out to what the new college football is today.
I do like this because coach, does Alcorn have a GM position yet on
What?
staff?
What?
Yeah. Because I
He's
do
talking
kind of
to
agree.
him.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. I I got to say this because you and Coach O were one of the first two guys to kind of get that tag in FCS. I do think the GM hire for him is super important, right? And I think the kind of guy you need in that position is a very, very experienced college coach. And I'm not saying Coach Cole is an example, but that's the example Black Pilot used here. But someone like that, right, that has vast experience in college recruiting, transfer portal management, just a college game overall. So I think that's going to be a very important hire, an underrated one.
And then the other thing that I think has got to be really, really, really top tier is the support from within the university and the athletic department.
Oh, whole other
You
conversation right there.
you can't penny pitch him. You can't expect him to go out and be the cash cow. You've got to be standing there at every turn that he needs something if you want him to be successful. Be successful. And then I think the other thing that's going to make it really tough later down the road is South Carolina State caught lightning in a bottle. It just so happened that they got a coach who came in with a quarterback who was familiar with his system, who brought guys with him, who was familiar with how he ran his office, things like that. So that ain't common, even though I think that's going to be the common thing now to where everybody's going to expect him to be able to compete the way Coach Berry did, and that's just not fair to him in that situation.
I'm 100% with you. Gotta offer some sort of support, and I think and Scotty and Josh and Zoe and those guys had a panel the other day about this. You got to find a way to capitalize on the hype you have right now after announcing this hire, whether it's
Oh, season
a
tickets should be on sale.
7-for-7 campaign, something like that, where you capitalize on this with season tickets, NIL, things like that. Because, coach, you know this. It's impossible today, even at the FCS level, to really compete without some sort of NIL backing. Now, does any FCS program outside of the Dakotas have thousands and thousands of dollars to give NIL? No. But you have to have something, right? To keep a Jarvion Howard, to keep a key player here or there, to keep a guy in your program that's important. They're
Mhm.
going to have to do something to support that. And I do think Norfolk is in a better position than Delaware State to offer that to Vick, that's why I'm concerned about the Jackson hire. It's not Jackson himself, it's just the position he's in. Because I think, Coach, me and you both agree. I think Norfolk, with the stadium, the fan base, the location, is in a better position to compete at a high level quicker than Delaware State is right now.
Yes, and again, I want to say it's just like in business. What they say the first rule is location, right?
Yep.
Um, so with the location in Delaware, Dover, they've got to be willing to do some things and show some things to get some guys. And I'm not gonna downplay how good, because I really don't know how good Philadelphia football is. I don't know how good
It's
that
not Georgia,
around that.
Florida, California.
Right. My point.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to go out and get some of those kids. But coming in this time of year, and I think, man, you talked about it, being a kid from Central Florida, getting off a plane, and even if it isn't snow and
Yeah.
it's 30 some degrees, when the pilot lands and he tells you the time here in Dover is 1:30, temperature outside is 20. You know what I mean?
It's gonna be tough. Even kids from California, right? Especially Southern California. Coach, that's a long trip.
That in itself makes that, and I don't know their complete history, but that
Mhm.
in itself to me would present a huge hurdle for him, because I gotta believe that his strong point of recruiting would be out West Coast
Yep.
and his name in the Philadelphia area, but Rutgers, Temple, uh, Navy,
Villanova,
Villanova,
Delaware.
Delaware itself, who's going up.
Yeah.
Uh, Now you're in one of those Texas fights. Texas has all those schools. Now you're in one of those Texas fights and again, I don't know how rich the area is, but then you got to start branching out. But how many kids are going to be able to get from Florida, LA, Houston, Texas, come to Dover? I don't know. And to me, you got to be willing to go the extra mile, even more so than Norfolk, to make sure Coach D-Jack is good
Yeah.
and support it.
Before I ask you your first opinion, Coach, I texted you when this news broke about Deshawn Jackson. Um, my opinion on this has evolved in the past however many hours it's been announced. And coach, that's why I like what we do, because I used to do just initial reactions and come on 24 hours after before I really, come on immediately and give my thoughts. But to me, like, I needed some time to kind of process this, think this through, and kind of go through the pros and cons for me. Because when it first happened, I was like, this makes zero sense. This, to me, and I texted you this seemed like a please don't send us to the NEC hire. This was a desperation, like, bro, don't forget about us, please. We're still Delaware State hire. And I really felt like that. And I felt like this was more of a Tyrone Wheatley hire than it was a Deion Sanders or Michael Vick type hire or Eddie George hire. But talking to some people around Delaware State, talking to some people in the MEAC, coach, I think we lose perspective sometimes on programs that don't have a championship history. What was the pool here, right? Because last year we saw all the names that applied for FAMU, right? They could hire there was multiple coaches who were successful coaches at this level that applied to be the FAMU head coach. Jackson went with TC immediately, but I bet you if Jackson would have opened up the hiring coach, how many qualified head coaches would have applied for Jackson State a few years ago? A whole
Right, right.
lot. What was the pickings for Delaware State here? And like this is not a shot, but it's kind of the same way I feel about Valley. they're not picking from the same pool that some of these top tier programs are in terms of head coaches that want to go to Delaware State, that want to go to Valley, that want to go to X university. And even though to me, I'm less confident in this being successful than I am Vick at Norfolk, I understand the move a little bit more because at the end of the day, Delaware State coach has zero to lose here. Because if
Yep.
it doesn't work, you're still Delaware State. And if it works, you look like a genius. And so like I understand the zero risk here for this hire, but to me, it felt like it was just completely out of left field. Like, coach, if you would have asked me if Deshawn Jackson would have been a head coach at a Division I FCS program, I would have lost every single cent in my bank account. Your initial thoughts here, man?
My initial thought was, first off, you know how I am about first year guys getting the opportunity. Um, they speak for all of us first year guys, but I just I couldn't wrap my head around the initial connection. Like, who picked up the phone? Who had the forward thinking? Was it him? Was it them? And it kind of coattails what you just said. Certain programs, I don't think, have to make calls to see if you're interested, kick the tires, so to speak. But other programs, such as Delaware, such as a Valley, I think you got it. Those programs have got to call people and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, would you be interested?" Swallow your pride, all that kind of stuff. So my thing was, who from Delaware forethought it and called Deshawn Jackson, who, from my understanding, is at the time was in LA, in the winter
Yeah.
months to put it together. Uh, it just wasn't a match that I would have ever thought of. Like you said, you could have put it as a multiple choice, and I would have never circled his name, even though his name was on the paper. So, again, I posed a question to you. Do you think, and we can put it in the chat, do you think these programs truly understand the spotlight they're about to put on themselves when they make these celebrity hires? Because one in the conference, I don't think understood it. The magnitude of the eyes and all that comes with it. So, do you think these two programs understood or understand what's about to come down the pike?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think okay, so I would be more willing to say Norfolk does, just because they have to understand how big he is in the area, right? Like you knew when you hired Vic in the Tidewater area what was going to come down the pipeline.
You had no idea AI was going to show up to the press conference, though.
Really? I think you would.
No, there's no way you knew Allen Iverson was showing up to the press conference.
I don't know because I mean there were people in the media saying that he was going to be there before it was even announced, like saying that if you hired Vic, AI would be on campus, and it was right. So like I don't know if that was a stretch per se. Because I
Yeah,
mean, they were close, right? And
yeah,
and
yeah,
and there, but I also, to me, like this is, and someone asked me what I mean by a Tyrone Wheatley hire. Tyrone Wheatley was a former NFL player hired at Morgan State. What was it, like 2018, 19
yeah.
ish? And he was fired 5-18. I want to say he's at Wayne State now. He's like 5-17 there. To me, this has a more likely bust potential than I think Vic does at Norfolk, just because of the area ties. Like you said, I think it's going to be so much harder to recruit to Dover, Delaware than it is to recruit to Norfolk State. And there's no shot at Deshawn Jackson because I would love for, to me, when you have a conference like the MEAC with 6 teams, coach, it is so important for everybody to be at a certain level. And it's even better for everybody to be good and competitive.
Gotta be.
So for me, this Deshawn Jackson hire, if I was Delaware State, this makes sense to me because I have nothing to lose. And if we're competitive, how much better does that make the MEAC look? Because, coach, the SWAC has went all in on the Celebration Bowl and the SWAC championship. They do not care about getting in a large bid to the FCS playoffs. They don't care. It's good if it comes. They don't care. The MEAC though does, and they've been vocal about it. If we don't win the MEAC, we want our second place. Whoever doesn't win the MEAC, the second place team, we would like them to go to the FCS playoffs. How do you do that? you make the conference more competitive. You win out of conference games. And so this makes sense in terms of that. And also, too, coach, the TV deal. Where was the weakness in the TV deal? It was Delaware State, right?
Yep.
That helps a little bit. I mean, coach, there would be no live shows, there'd be no tweets, nothing about Delaware State's head coaching hire if they went any other direction. Would Pete Thamel have tweeted out Delaware State hired anybody if it wasn't Deshawn Jackson?
Probably not.
So I just think this was listen, we are going to take a shot here. And they did it. And so I don't have a problem with it. You know, to me, when it first announced, coach, I was just confused, right? Like a little bit. I was a little bit confused on the hire because it's like you said, it just seemed random to me, but maybe random's good, right? And
And
I
who
want to
knows?
shift.
Maybe this was being worked behind the scenes
Yeah.
by
Because
whoever, however,
because here's in earlier, if you remember, coach, I kind of hinted at it, and I want to ask you how you feel about this. I kind of label him as a borderline celebrity hire for me, just because I think, okay, so let's list the quote unquote celebrity head coaches we've had recently. We have Deon, Eddie George, Ed Reed for like 2 weeks. You have, Vick, you have Deshawn Jackson, right? Out of all those names, I think Deshawn Jackson's name has the least amount of pull here.
I think his name shows up before his face if you are a football fan.
Right.
Um, because he had some pretty explosive things uh in the game of football, but I think his name shows up before his face. But I also think I don't want to say region, but region
Yeah,
to
right. The
me.
Philadelphia region, right? That's
Yeah,
the region he's a celebrity, but nationally, he's not the celebrity any of the other names are.
no, that Northeast region, and then you got to go way
A small
west.
part of California, right?
Yeah, way west. Yes.
Yeah.
But, I still think that Coach Jackson and Coach Vick should come on the Blue Bloods. I know y'all are going to be listening. Somebody's going to send this to you guys. Come talk with us and let us know how this thing happened. All right, go ahead.
You know, you want to know what one thing I'm kind of depressed about? SWAC Media Day is stressful, right? Because there's 900,000 media outlets at SWAC Media Day. We have like 15 rooms, it feels like. See everybody. Coach, when I would go to MEAC Media Day, it'd be so relaxed. We got one nice little room. Everyone
Not
gets to talk to
anymore.
everybody. It's not rushed. I'm so stressed now. I'm gonna
Not
have to go to
anymore.
MEAC Media Day, and we're gonna have to put on boxing gloves and fight to get interviews now for head coaches. That's the one thing I hate about this. Is like
Not
it's gonna be
anymore.
tough to go to MEAC Media Day now, especially being hosted in Norfolk.
Oh, my goodness.
Good luck. Listen, Michael Vick's gonna have the prime treatment. They're gonna be security guards. You're gonna have to be throwing microphones at them, hoping it hits them. It's gonna be outrageous at MEAC Media Day. Now, that's the one take. That's the one
You
bad
better
thing
you better
about
apply
this.
now.
I'm telling you, man. So let me, and then also too, I think someone in the chat said he did sign the contract. Delaware State put out an official announcement on their website that Deshawn Jackson, Delaware State is done. As of I
Yeah,
think it might have been today or yesterday, but they put
it
out a
was
press
yesterday I
release.
saw that deal. I didn't see their
Yeah.
press
So
release, but one of the NFL people put
yeah.
something out. So kind of like with the big
Now,
deal.
coach, I got to ask you because you are an up and coming coach. Listen, our guy Dustin Helton said if anything happens at Stephen F. Austin, he's starting the hashtag Coach Fred to Stephen F. Austin hype train. So if you got people calling for you, someone asked me if you would want to be the OC at
All
South
aboard.
Dakota. They play in a dome. They said you can be warm in the dome. So you're a name that's up and coming, man. You've got coordinator
All
aspirations, head
aboard.
coach aspirations. Are you which side are you on? Because from me and you talking, you don't mind the celebrity hires like other coaches in the business. We've seen other coaches crash out on platforms and social media about this, about celebrity hires coming in. Your perspective on it, and do you think it's disrespectful to head coach, other head coaches, other up and coming coaches that these guys are getting opportunities, or do you just think it's part of the business?
It's part of the business now. It
Yeah.
wasn't 5 years ago, but it's part of the business now. Like I said on the Coach JB show, um, I'm torn because there's a lot of guys that put a lot of years into this thing, and who've really been actively seeking head coaching spots, opportunities, and then they don't get them because of, hey, they want to splash higher, something like that. So, I understand that part of it, but then uh, it's a deal of where I think it should give you some energy. It should give you some excitement about it. That the game is changing. People now are going to, be more open to. I don't want to say splash. I'm not a celebrity, but and I'm just speaking for me. Um, okay, man, look, your resume speaks for itself. We understand it. We're going to give you an opportunity. And I always go back to Toledo giving who arguably everyone says is the GOAT, Nick Saban, an opportunity, and it kind of took off from there. But you have to get the opportunity. I'm always happy for people to get the opportunity. So I hate it kind of for people that are really, really put it in and been really serious about it and not getting the opportunity. But then, it's exciting. I think, you just hit it on the head when you're talking about Media Day. Uh, that gives that conference new life, whether you want to admit it or not. I think that just shoots, new blood into the area. And now, uh, you know, the SWAC was still riding, but then when Coach Prime came, uh, now you got, as they put it, those ugly red seats down there. You don't know who's in those red seats down there. You just know
They got rid of those.
celebrities. Yeah, but I'm saying when he was there, you those ugly red seats down there. You didn't know who was down there. So
Looks like we may have lost coach for a minute. But yeah, man, I just this
can you hear me?
is yeah, I got you now, man. Go ahead. You can
Okay.
finish up.
But those ugly red seats down there. But you look up one game, you got Snoop down there. Uh, Now, was it more of a fashion show concert? No doubt, but the energy, the buzz, was created. Coach Maynard, I think, had Ric Flair at the game. You know, Coach Maynard may not have been the celebrity hire, but he was shooting new energy, and I think this is what this is going to do. Again, you said somebody new, but to see AI sitting there in a fur chinchilla at a news conference introducing Mike Vick, who showed up in jeans, which is classic stuff, uh,
Yeah.
is awesome. So I'm good with it. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. And I think that's a refreshing take, man, because I think uh, and I listen, it's a social media era, and we kind of knew what it was going to be, right, Coach? If one person expresses their opinion negatively about a situation, it kind of gets
That's all.
grouped in as like, oh, all coaches feel this way, or all people feel this way, and it just that's not exactly how it should be, right? Because I don't think every current coach feels like a former head coach Johnny Cole feels, where he was ripping the celebrity hires, and doesn't necessarily feel like some of the other ones that have spoken out on social media. You feel a certain way. It's just part of the business. Coach Anton Sewell, Morgan State D coordinator, said, "Man, I love the challenge." He goes, "It makes me feel like I have to work twice as hard to get there, which is a good thing, right? Because when I get there, I'll be more prepared." And also, too, Coach, I think it puts pressure on coaches to understand that they're a business at the end of the day, too, right? Where I think it's forcing, I guess, traditional coaches to promote themselves more, to put more effort in building their brand, media opportunities, things like that, right? Because a lot of these coaches, especially if you want to come coach at HBCU, coach, you have to bring some sort of resources in here and help this program that has been underfunded by state governments, that has been historically mistreated, things like that. You have to help bring this program to the level where you can compete with programs that haven't had to go overcome the challenges that other programs haven't. And so I do think it puts some pressure on, I would say, like I said, traditional coaches to put more effort in building the brand and bringing some resources with them. And it's not just all about wins and losses at the end of the day, which is, I think we have to be careful here, right? At the end of the day, bringing money's good, but at the end of the day, money doesn't outweigh wins in this game we call
Yeah.
college football.
And I'll add two things to it. Nobody wants to be 0-12 and have $1 million.
Yeah,
Nobody wants that.
no,
Yeah, would it be nice to have $1 million? Yeah, but to be 0-12
no,
or 0-22, that million does you no good.
No.
because you're still, if you're invested into the game the right way, you're going to take every loss to heart, and it's going to be just miserable, even though you're sitting on a
Yeah.
mill. And then the other part of it, I'll liken it to, I don't know if you remember when there was a run going on, young coaches, older coaches were upset because how are you going to give this 29-year-old kid an opportunity to be a head coach? And here I am, a head coach, former head coach at 45, uh, record maybe 15-37, but I've been a head coach, and you're going to give this 29-year-old who's never been a head coach an opportunity. So essentially, this is the same thing. It's just celebrity versus traditional, or however you want to put it, but it's essentially the same argument. But you just got to be happy for it, because I think the first young guy that got an opportunity opened the door for a lot of other young guys to get
Yeah.
opportunities. And, it's not that older coaches still hadn't gotten opportunities. It just gave the younger guys opportunities. So, the challenge now is for the Blue Bloods, the Coaches Lounge, the segment I do with Coach JB. I've got to be better, because now Deshawn Jackson comes in, and he's the second coach active on social media, you know. So I've got a little challenge to stay fresh and stay up to date with it. So I mean, I'm good with it. I'm like, Coach Sewell, let's go.
Now, Charles, okay, so I'm not going to speak for, but listen, I cover FCS football for a living. As I'll make my money. So I would say this, like I think a lot of the people outside the HBCU space in FCS are more in like a wait and see kind of deal, right, Coach? Where I think
Mhm.
they're excited because ultimately, if more eyes are coming to Delaware State and Norfolk, that's more eyes coming to FCS football, right? Because at the end of the day, I know that some people like to separate, MEAC and SWAC football and FCS, and they are separation in some aspects, but at the end of the day, it's still FCS. And so it's good for more eyes to be on the FCS. So that's kind of the take. I got asked about it on the show I was on the other night, and a lot of the FCS guys loved it. A lot of the South Dakota State fans love it. I think they're just kind of in a wait and see mode, right? I mean, I because right now for celebrity hires, right, in the HBCU sphere, what we're 2-1 right now. Because I think you would classify Prime as a success. You would
Yeah, yeah,
classify Eddie as a success, and Ed Reed never even made it to day one, so he's got to be an L. So you're
I'll
two and
take
one
that.
right now.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That's not enough data points to know if this trend's going to continue, right? Because if Michael Vick falls on his face, if Deshawn Jackson falls on his face, like I think you'll see this trend slowly start to die. But if those guys go on and win championships, win games, it's going to increase the popularity of making those type of splash hires.
Oh yeah, I mean, then it may, turn into a wildfire, and then,
Yeah,
trouble. But, right now, again, uh, I think for the FCS level as a whole, um, the more the merrier as far as the lights go, because that's what it's all about, the advertising dollars, bringing sponsors, corporate sponsors in, and things like that. Uh, you know, it's. I hope they're strategically ready for what they've, you know, what's coming their way with their hire. I
yeah.
hope they're ready for that. If they don't have
It,
ticket sales up already, I'm a little disappointed.
that that was one thing I know a lot of people were upset about. I know the official schedule isn't ready yet, from what I was
It don't
told.
matter.
Yeah, you got if you're Norfolk, you had to have been selling tickets at that press conference. And if you're
Right.
Delaware State, you got to be selling season tickets at that press conference. Have to.
Online, let's go.
And Vic jerseys have to be available by the first.
No doubt. No doubt.
That should be non-negotiable. The 7 Norfolk Vic jerseys should be on the website by January 1st, by New Year's.
No doubt. Or whatever number of coach he is, and the number of coaches they've had, that jersey's got to be up with his name on the back.
So, Coach, I wanted to end this here, man, and then we might take a few questions from the chat, man. We're only about 40 minutes here. Ranking the top 3 FCS head coaching hires of this offseason. Now, obviously, A&M and Valley are still open. I want to say they're the only 2 FCS jobs that are still open right now. Don't know. Listen, I know why A&M's taking their time. They want to get a splash hire, and they've kind of passed over some other quote unquote qualified traditional coaches looking to make a splash. Valley is going to be the last position filled for other reasons. But coach, just looking at this, for me, I'll go from 3 to 1. Number 3 for me in terms of FCS head coaching hires this all season. 3 is Michael Vick. to Norfolk. And for all the reasons we talked about, right? Location, recruiting, excitement, money. Also, to Norfolk has not been a listen. I want to say our guy Dave from A&T said they've only had like 5 winning seasons or 6 winning seasons in their history for D1.
Oh
Got
wow.
nothing to lose here. I mean, the floor is set, so you can only go up from here. Michael Vick's a legend. I think they're going to be ready to compete year 2, year 3. It'll be a little bit more of an Eddie track, but I really do like that hire. To me, that's number 3. 2 for me is a guy that you're going to see this year, coach, in the division, Tremaine Jackson to PV. I love that hire. And coach, in this battle of, and I don't even think it needs to be a battle because different programs have different standards and a different idea of where they want their program to go. In terms of traditional hires, this is a slam dunk, right? When you look 30-9 at Valdosta, 10-3 over his 2 years at Colorado Mesa. I mean, what else do you want, coach? You talking about championship hire, talking about winning, talking about building a culture, talking about being successful at multiple programs, plus connections in state of Texas, plus played. I want to say because there's been this thing going around. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Cavill because he did kind of clear this up. If I'm not mistaken, Tremaine Jackson did not graduate from an HBCU. He played at Texas Southern, but I want to say he transferred to Louisiana Monroe, and that's where he got his degree. But he has HBCU ties. To me, this is the number 2 hire out here, man. He's coached at Abilene Christian, coached at Sioux Falls, coached at Texas State. To me, that's a slam dunk hire. And the number 1 FCS hire of the offseason, coach, right now is Brennan Marion at Sac State. Coach, have you paid attention to what Brennan Marion has been doing out there?
Superstar.
Oh my God, man. I mean, listen, so since they've hired also too, I don't know if a lot of people have heard this. Coach Mike Minter has officially joined the staff as the assistant head coach under Marion. And they go and hire my guy Darren Walls, who was the cornerback and defensive passing game coordinator at Albany, who had all American corners these past few years. So you load that staff up. You also get AC Patterson for Portland State, coach, who was the recruiter of the year at the FCS level by 247 Sports last year at Portland State. They've had a freshman All-American for like 4 straight years from that he directly recruited. And on top of that, too, coach, they have jumped to the number 1 recruiting class in the country for the FCS level, ahead of like 15 FBS programs, including landing Jamar Curtis, who was an All-American running back from Lafayette, Ricky Lee from UAB, who was a starter at UAB 2 years ago before he got hurt this past year. And on top of that, too, has landed multiple guys from UNLV. And coach, they got a kid from Oregon State who was a 4-star recruit last year that redshirted at Oregon State this year, left to go join Marion at Sac State as a redshirt freshman. 4-star kid at wide receiver, all the talent in the world. So to me, Brennan Marion, Tremaine Jackson, and Michael Vick, those 3 guys top all the other head coaching hires this all season so far, man. I think Sac State next year, coach, has a chance to really compete with the talent that they brought in. I think when you look at what PV did, coach, they said they wanted to compete for playoffs if they don't win the SWAC. Tremaine Jackson's the guy who's shown that he can compete at that level. So to me, those 2 hires stand above the rest.
I like your list. I would just go. Uh, I it's tough to beat for me. And it would be 1A, 1B, the 2 that we just talked about. Just because, like you said, people gonna always love 7. I think that's what he said that one time.
Yeah.
And then just the deal with the out of the blueness with Deshawn Jackson has just got me excited about that deal. Um, Coach Jackson at PV, he's got to make the list, and then Sac State, of course, makes the list, and then the money that they said they had for their collective, if it's anywhere close to what they say they got, Coach should be, like you said, right there competing for the opportunity to get into the FCS playoffs and not just get in, but compete and really go through the brackets if they use that money the way that they say they have. If they use that money the right way, they could be trouble for a lot of folks. So I'd agree with you on that.
Especially because of the rumors that Brent Vegan is headed to Washington State after the national title game for Montana State.
Right. So
If that
that kind of
happens,
clears
then
it up.
that opens the door for someone to kind of step up, especially with Idaho losing Eck too. Now, I think they
Yep.
made a
I
really
forgot
good
all
hire.
about that.
That would be my honorable mention is Ford going to Idaho to replace Eck. The
Yeah.
problem with that is because they lost so much talent. Like I don't know if you
In the
saw,
last 2 years, man, they taken a
yeah,
hit.
and in the age of the transfer portal, you know this, Coach. New Mexico released their signings the other day, and it was just scrolling Idaho, 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 Idaho. It's like they brought the whole team with them. It was like, oh god,
I
it's
wonder
just
what that
brutal.
receiver got. I wonder what that receiver got.
A bag, right? I'm assuming both of them. One went to
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I want to say the other one went to like Texas Tech.
Yeah. That
A bag, an
that's
absolute
that's
bag.
that's that's crazy.
Um, I will say this, man. There's been some interesting transfer portal moves. I'll say this. I mean, I just get worried, Coach, because everyone has to go find out what their value is in the portal, right? But man, I've seen a lot of guys hit the portal, and it's just seven, well, 5 to 7,000 kids in the portal. Just the numbers
Gotta have
I've
a
heard.
plan, man. You gotta have a
God, man,
plan.
it.
And then
I'll say
that
this.
junior college rule.
Can we talk
Um,
about that, Coach? You recruit JUCO. That's like one of your primary recruiting spots. How big was that JUCO ruling that these guys get an extra year of eligibility? And then talk a little bit about the potential. Now, I know it's not confirmed, right? The no eligibility in JUCO, that's not confirmed, right? That they still haven't made an
just
official
a
decision.
year injunction or whatever.
Yeah.
So they'll have that, but it's still
How
under.
how would that affect college football if that passed?
Oh, the JUCO becomes a new prep school, and you know, going back to the guys that were seniors this year are done with eligibility, now have another year, and then you see all those guys hitting the portal. I just hope those kids have a plan because now you got guys that are coming out, guys that are going back. There's only so many scholarships. And at some point, it's going to run out. Like you said, it's close to 7,400 kids uh, in the portal, and it ain't that
Mhm.
much football to go around.
No.
So I think a lot of these kids have got to understand and have, like I said, have a plan with it. Also think that at the end of the day, that JUCO deal is going to be really, really huge because they've got to figure out what they're going to do with those kids that stay junior college wise.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, yeah, my car just got ready. But
You're good.
what they've got to do with those kids junior college wise, because at the end of the day, your your roster can only be so long, so many. Mississippi has a limit on out of state kids. Now Kansas is out of no limit,
Yeah.
but there's only so many spots those kids are going to be able to go, and it's all but destroyed. I think high school recruiting, unless you're just that dude ESPN top 300. It's going to be tough for high school kids now to find somewhere if that rule stays in effect past this year.
Yeah. I think that just kills. One, it kills D2, in my opinion. Like it just
No doubt.
that it's going to kill D2 kids. Now FCS, I'm still so torn on, right, Coach? I just don't know because on one aspect, the FCS kid that was under recruited, if he can get a spot at JUCO, he's going to commit to a JUCO school over a Jackson and Alcorn, Incarnate Word, because he's going to go JUCO and keep his eligibility.
Yes.
But on top of that, too, the JUCO kid who was going to go to JUCO and try to make it, if he doesn't have a spot, I think he goes FCS. So I think it's going to be kind of a trade off here a bit with FCS and JUCO if that ruling comes down. But I think at the end of the day, it hurts FCS more than it helps.
Right. Because at the end of the day, let's say the kid can get into FCS, and he does flourish. What's going to happen? We all know what the end of that is going to be. He's going
Yep.
to enter the portal because he's going to find out if he can go get the bag or whatever, that kind of thing. So the door is going to slow down to a point to where I think it's just going to be a login. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kids coming out of JUCO, trying to find 4 year, kids at FCS 4 year coming out, trying to find the bag. And I think it's just going to be a log jam and it's just going to be a lot of kids sitting there with nowhere else to go.
I like this. FCS becomes JUCO, JUCO becomes prep schools.
That's pretty much what the trade off is about to be. And
Yeah.
prep schools are going to be non existent because, you know, I think the other part of the ruling that they've got to clear up, if it's not counting eligibility, is it going to count for me academically?
Right.
And I think that's going to be the huge part of that ruling going forward. Because right now, like you said, it's just in a 1 year stage. They got an extension on it, but it's still tabled. So, at some point in time, they've got to come back and say either yay or nay. And if they say yay, there's got to be some attachments to it. Because you mean to tell me I can stay there for 2 years, not have any athletic eligibility
And
exhausted,
red shirt.
and, and still have my red shirt,
Yeah.
and then be halfway to my degree? Oh, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Especially if all I have is Stanford, uh, Delaware State. Why do that when I can just go JUCO and go to Hutch and win games and hopefully better my stock. If not, I know what JUCO coaches tell those kids now. Come here for 2 years. If it doesn't work, Alabama don't come get you. You can still go to Alabama State. I
Yep.
know that's what they tell So I mean, that's going to be doubled down on now for sure.
I don't think people understand the dirty tactics behind the scenes when it comes to JUCO recruiting. The people in the chat who have not been around it don't understand that what was it, Coach, the separate list that a lot of
Yeah,
FCS programs get from JUCOs. And I mean,
yeah,
Coach, we had SWAC schools, and I'm not talking about just Valley, losing recruits to freaking like Mississippi Gulf Coast
yep.
because they're convincing the kids that JUCO is a better route than going FCS. Like, and if they pass this eligibility thing, it is going to be a disgusting recruiting tactic for JUCOs because they're going to be out recruiting some top FCS programs, especially the Kansas schools. As
Oh yeah,
crazy
because
as
they're
it
unlimited.
sounds.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
unlimited. They can have
And
as many as they want from out of state.
the last thing, Coach, we'll run out here. I know you got to go. The FCS conferences have to get together ASAP in determining these roster limits because
Can't
it's
leave it
going
hanging.
to it's going to impact how many kids these programs can sign. Because you know this, the SEC has already said, listen, we're capping it at 85. I don't care if they said you can go to 105, we're capping it at 85. Other conferences are going to let you go to 105. Little did people know the FCS has the same decision to make. The NCAA is going to let FCS programs go to 105 scholars. But I don't think every conference is going to let that happen. I think the SWAC, the MEAC, the Missouri Valley, the Big South OVC, they're going to set individual caps on their programs because, Coach, the top of the valley and the bottom of the valley cannot afford the same amount of scholarships. The top of the SWAC versus the bottom of the SWAC every SWAC school cannot afford 105 scholars next year. It's impossible. There's SWAC schools that don't even have full scholarship allotments right now at 63. So these conferences have to announce because, Coach, if you're on the recruiting trail right now and Alcorn can only have 63 scholarships, it changes how you recruit. Where if Alcorn has 85 or 105, and you guys need to know that on the recruiting trail because you guys are going to be losing out on recruits if you guys are overselling or underselling, right? And so I think these FCS conferences have to figure out what the cap's going to be.
Got to. And then I also think that these conferences, and I guess this is a show for the off season, but these conferences have got to come together and start putting pressure on the NCAA. If you're saying this, then you need to help fund this because at the end of the day, you're putting this information out saying that Bluebloods U can have 105 kids on scholarship, but Bluebloods
Yeah.
U can only afford 63. But you've put that information out there now. Are you going to help me fund the rest of those or not? You got enough money, but I think those conferences got to come back and put that kind of pressure on the NCAA. If the NCAA is going to put that kind of pressure on me visually by saying that, oh yeah, they can have 105 if they want to, that kind of thing. So it's just one of those deals where it's there's got to be a discussion like you said, but there's got to be a roundtable discussion with the NCAA about the funds on that as well.
Yeah, and Timothy, man, that is insane. I didn't see that. So, Coach Griffin Wilde, South Dakota State wide receiver, hits the portal. I'm not super surprised. Listen, I mean, the kid's a freak, and I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if he follows, was it Lewan to, where is he? Northwestern, I want to say. Like, he's probably going to get Big Ten P5 offers. So, not super surprised there. I wish he would have stayed. But at the end of the listen, that's the age of the portal now, man. When you have a kid that's been that dominant, not surprised at all, man. But I really, oh, it's no contact. Yeah, he knows exactly where he's going. So, coach, he hit the portal with a no contact clock, so he knows exactly where he's going.
Oh yeah, I'm done.
So,
They've already
Luwan,
sent me the yeah,
he's
they've already
he's
sent me
going
the
with his
paperwork.
he's going with his old OC for sure, man. But coach, man, any final words, man? We hit an hour on Saturday morning, man. Hope y'all had a great holidays. And man, me and coach are gonna be back, man. We'll both be in Frisco, was it next weekend, coach, for the FCS
Yes,
National
sir.
Championship. So we'll have some content on that. We're gonna get some we're gonna get some content going next week, man. We'll probably be back talking a little bit of HBCU FCS football, man. But coach, any last words or anything, man?
Nah, man, I'm good, man. Just don't be surprised when I'm the celebrity hire at A&M.
A&M's coming. A&M announcement should be coming next week, from what I was
Uh,
what I was told, but we'll see. I don't know, because coach, we heard some stuff about Delaware State that went
that was
completely the other way.
completely different. Completely
Anyway, man,
different.
guys, we appreciate y'all, man. Hit the like button,
Yes,
subscribe, all that good
yes,
stuff. Me and coach will be
yes.
back next week. But for Coach Fred, myself, the Blue Bloods FCS Football Central on SI, we are out for right now.